Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us today for a Dogs for Better Lives webinar. I'm Sarah Eifert. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Dogs for Better Lives, and today I'm joining from Madison, Wisconsin. I'd love to know where everyone else is attending from, so feel free to introduce yourself and share your location in the YouTube chat box. For those of you who are new to us, Dogs for Better Lives trains and places assistance dogs free of charge with deaf or hard of hearing adults, children diagnosed with autism, and licensed professionals working with vulnerable communities so people with disabilities can lead safer and more independent lives. Today's topic is in celebration of National Service Dog Month, which happens in the month of September, and we'll be covering today a range of topics all about service dogs. We'll also be recording this. I know sometimes people have that question. They're not able to attend live or they might need to hop off. So just know that this will be recorded and we will be sending out a recording tomorrow to everyone who registered for this session today. If you need to view closed captions, you can click on the CC box at the bottom right of this video and know that there will be a brief Q&A at the end of this presentation, but you don't have to wait until the end to submit your questions. Feel free to put any questions you might have on anything that comes to mind about service dogs in the YouTube chat box, and we'll try to get through as many as we can. So I want to first introduce Gwen Dudek. She is our amazing Vice President of Program, and I can't think of a better person to bring in to talk about service dogs. She brings nearly 30 years experience in the service dog industry, which means she's been in it since she was a child. And she's amazing. So I will turn it over to her to kind of give you a little bit of a presentation, and then we'll get into the Q&A.
Well, thank you, Sarah. That's a very kind introduction. So yes, I'm thrilled to be here and to be able to talk about National Service Dog Month. Hopefully everyone on the presentation is aware that the month of September has been designated National Service Dog Month. Obviously in the United States, many of the service dog providers in our great nation celebrate National Service Dog Month by having awareness events, really talking about the work that we do, getting involvement with state and local governments, and just really trying to make the world aware of the great work that service dogs do, helping people every day in so many different ways. So defining what is a service dog is kind of important because this can get very confusing and muddy in our current world. But a service dog is a dog that is specifically trained to help someone with a disability or a specific need. So the tasks that a service dog can perform are many. It can be anywhere from assisting with mobility issues like pulling a wheelchair or providing balance support, picking up dropped items or tugging a drawer open, monitoring diabetic handlers and alerting them if their blood sugar might be falling or rising. In the world of Dogs for Better Lives, alerting a handler to sounds in their environment, important ones like smoke alarms and microwaves and door knocks. Serving as a guide for individuals with visual impairment, alerting others for help, alerting others maybe in their home for help with their handler. So for example, a service dog is typically quiet, but if the dog is suddenly barking, folks either in the neighborhood or maybe in the home are aware that that person needs help. Our dogs can help folks with autism, and also helping people with PTSD. So there's so many ways that the dogs are integrated to people's lives to just really help offset some of the impact that the disability might be having in their lives. The confusion comes in because many people have figured out that having a dog in public is kind of cool and fun. And that has created some problems for the legitimate service dog users around the nation and around the globe. So individuals may bring emotional support dogs or therapy dogs into places of public accommodation and try to represent them as a service dog. And this creates many problems, often because those dogs aren't necessarily as well trained. There maybe the expectations aren't as high, and they can be disruptive. And nonetheless, sometimes just the general behavior can be very distracting for a working service dog. Getting a vest is unfortunately a lot easier to do than it was when I started in the industry 30 years ago. And while a vest is not required for public access, it can be one of those visual cues to a business, and a business may be reluctant to question that person. But there's definitely ways we can spot the difference between a service dog and an imposter. Sarah's a great term here. I love that so much. But your service dogs are going to be calm and under control. You know, ideally, a service dog is seen and not heard, invisible. The biggest compliment a service dog handler can receive is when they get up from a restaurant or they leave a store. Someone says, "Oh my goodness, I never even knew there was a dog in here." And that is absolutely the biggest compliment that a handler can receive. So the way these dogs can be invisible is by walking nicely on the leash, not pulling, not sniffing, sitting quietly or laying down quietly under a table. Hopefully they are ignoring other dogs or other distractions. So if there's food on the floor or even a little kid running up to them with an ice cream cone, a well-trained service dog is not going to care about that. They'll be focused on their person, and of course their person will have kept them well groomed and clean. In contrast, the more imposter type dogs that you might encounter when out in public, they might be barking at other dogs. Someone might be thinking it's really adorable to put them in the shopping cart or to put them in a stroller. Typically, leash manners aren't there. They might be offering to eat off the table or eat off the floor, and hopefully in no way being aggressive, but you know, any kind of out of control behavior is usually a sign that potentially that dog is not a service dog. So service dog access, I know we had a lot of questions come in prior to this presentation specific to access in different scenarios, and we'll talk about those towards the end of this. But the service dog access is provided to individuals with disabilities under the American with Disabilities Act. So the American with Disabilities Act is giving access to people, not dogs, who have a dog specifically trained to perform a task that mitigates the effect of their disability. So that is giving someone access to take this specially trained dog into places of public accommodation legally. So that might be a store, a restaurant, public transportation, a mall, you know, typically places where a pet dog isn't invited to be. That doesn't come without some responsibility though. So a service dog handler has to keep the dog well groomed, well behaved, under control. The law doesn't require that the dog be on a leash if there was some reason the dog couldn't perform a task that was trained to do, but you will encounter 99% of service dog handlers keep their dogs under control by being on a leash, being able to just lie quietly wherever they are, and, you know, ambulating independently, not in a shopping cart or in a stroller or sitting on someone's lap in a restaurant. Businesses are often challenged to know when someone comes in with a dog, whether it's wearing a vest or not, how do they know if it's a service dog? Legally, there are two questions that someone can ask. A business owner could ask a person that appears in their business with a dog. They can ask if that dog is required because of a disability. They cannot ask, what is your disability, or prove it. That's not allowed. And they can also ask, what task or tasks does the dog perform? What have they been trained to do? So the answer to that question should definitely be, the dog alerts me to sounds of my environment. The dog picks things up that I drop. The answer to that question should not be, I feel better because this dog is right here by my side. That is not really an answer to a trained task. So interacting with a service dog, as we encounter them out and about in public, the most important advice that I think we could give anyone is this: the dog is there for the person that is holding the leash, and the person is the person that we should talk to, not the dog. So person first, always acknowledge the person. Hi, how are you? oh my goodness, what a beautiful dog you have. Tell me about your dog. And if the person is seeming open to having a conversation with you and you're really feeling compelled, it is okay to ask, would it be okay if I pet your dog? Don't be surprised. Some of the handlers may say, not right now, he's working. Some of them may say, hold on, I'm going to have him sit or lay down so you can pet him. And then I would like you to pet him right on the head or right here. And it's always best to please follow that instruction if you're giving that kind of direction. If your dog is with you, be aware that while the service dogs are well trained, they are still very much dogs. So if you're noticing that the service dog and the person that you're talking with is having a little bit a more difficult time managing the dog at the end of their leash, go ahead and step back a little bit. Typically, a service dog handler is not going to want to let their dog play with your dog, no matter how cute and lovely your dog may be. And it's always great to talk about, what was the dog trained to do? Can you tell me a little bit more? People typically just love telling about the dogs that they have and how the dog has helped them. Of course, it's not, please don't ask, what is your disability? Can you prove to me that you have a disability? Do you have some paperwork? Will you please show that to me? Those are not great questions. Please don't ask those. And don't pull a biscuit out of your pocket and assume that we can just give that to the service dog. That's going to also be a no. You will find the servers in a restaurant will maybe offer to bring a bowl of water for the dog or something, but that is at the handler's discretion if the dog needs it at that time, and the handler will figure out a way to do that in a discreet way.
I think one thing to add to this is even if a dog is lying there sleeping and looks like it's not working, doesn't mean that it's not working. So, just doing your best to not be a distraction. And again, like Gwen is saying, speak to the person first.
Absolutely. So Dogs for Better Lives does an amazing job training different categories of assistance dogs for our clients. And you'll see pictured here our National Board President, Dr. Danielle Rose, and her dog Delight with her hearing assistance dog. So our hearing dogs, as I think many people on this call are probably aware, our hearing dogs are trained to alert to household sounds that really enhance someone's safety and independence. And so one of my favorite stories from hearing dog clients, as simple as this may sound, but one of our clients shared that her daughter is just so grateful for the dog now because their dinners are no longer burned. Mom can now hear when the oven timer is going off. So that is just the simple but really cool example of how impactful a dog can be with these trained skills. Another great advantage to hearing dogs is as folks are out and about in public, while the dogs can alert to a name call or other things like that, the dogs are also more aware of the environment. So if the noise is happening behind someone on a sidewalk, the dog might have some attention for that. And that's giving that person information on what's going on in their environment. So that's very powerful. We also train autism assistance dogs. So children with autism and families impacted or living with children with autism will use the skills that the dogs are trained to do to help a kid get through his day. So maybe having the dog provide deep pressure by being on the lap or putting their chin on the kid's lap can really help kind of settle and make that child a little bit more comfortable in the environment. We also work with facility dogs, and we're training facility dogs specific tasks so that those dogs can go with a professionally trained handler into their work environment. So typically these work environments are hospitals, schools, some in the criminal justice system, where the dog's trained tasks can help facilitate a therapy session or potentially a forensic interview, or just help working with vulnerable populations in all those different environments. In a perfect world, all of the dogs that we either rescue or breed would go on to become one of these three candidates for these different placement types. However, Unfortunately, that's not real life. So some go on to be career change dogs. And those can be amazing dogs that either are pets, or if the option exists, to send them off to a different working career. So maybe a search and rescue career would be right for some high energy, high drive, confident dogs. We'll look at that option as well. But career change dogs always go on to become amazing animals wherever they land. Often it's with their volunteer puppy raiser, but they are now trained with some skills and some manners and can just be a fantastic addition to anyone's family. So we would love to show this video, because who doesn't love watching a dog work? So here is a video that showcases the skills that our training team puts on the Dogs for Better Lives dogs. I love watching that video. I've seen that a few times. I like it every time I see it. So our trained assistance dogs don't just magically become ready for professional training. Our purpose-bred dogs need a puppy raiser. So when our puppies are ready to leave their dam and their breeder caretaker home at about 8 weeks of age, we are always looking for puppy raisers who are willing to take on that bundle of joy. I have one in my house right now who's about 10 weeks old. They're adorable. I can attest to that part. Super fun, a little bit of work, but super fun. So we're always looking for volunteers that are willing to take on that 8-week-old puppy, keep it in their home for about a year, maybe a couple months more, housebreak it, teach it house manners, crate train, go to obedience classes, take it once it's old enough, take it to different places in public to just really get it ready for life as a future assistance dog. Once the dogs are about a year old, they return to one of our campuses, either our Central Point, Oregon campus or our Falmouth campus in Massachusetts, where they will spend about 6 months in training, learning to either become a hearing dog, an autism assistance dog, or a facility dog. And so we're always looking for volunteers, and I know our website's going to really give you that information if you'd like to learn more.
Yeah, that's one of the most fun ways to get involved, but there are many others, and it just we have to share as part of National Service Dog Month. There are a lot of ways that you can be an ally to service dogs. So the easiest, probably lowest lift option is following Dogs for Better Lives on social media and sharing our posts. So we are active on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And we actually, throughout the month of September, have been sharing a Mythbusters sort of series, testing people's knowledge and kind of debunking some common myths about service dogs. And now you have all of the clues and the answers to be able to get 100% on that test. So feel free to follow us and join in on those conversations. You can also sign up for our e-newsletter, and this is just a wonderful, positive newsletter, I have to say, not being too biased, but it's the Positivity Chronicles. We send it once a month, and it includes stories about from our clients, letting people know what they're up to and what their service dog means to them. It includes stories about our dogs in training and all the behind the scenes kind of news that you would want to know about Dogs for Better Lives, like upcoming events, other ways that you can get involved. So highly recommend doing that. You can find the link to our newsletter and our social media channels right on our homepage, dogsforbetterlives.org. You can also, if you want to kind of have some hands-on time with dogs, but you're not ready to be a full puppy raiser, that's great. We have opportunities for you as well. You can become a transportation volunteer. So at times we need dogs moving from a puppy raiser home to our campuses, or it might need a road trip from their breeder caretaker to the puppy raiser. So if you like taking road trips and enjoy taking road trips with dogs, this could be a great opportunity for you to get involved, and we can work around your schedule. So really fun way to spend some time with our dogs in training and see a bit of the country. And then fostering dogs. So again, this is a way that you can temporarily be involved in supporting our service dog's journey. So this can be as little as a day or two, as a puppy's waiting for a ride to a different location, or a week or two, or longer, depending. Puppy raisers go on vacation. We want to provide a great place for that puppy to go and continue their training. So there's a lot of opportunities for you to get involved with our dogs. You can find more information about that, applications, etc., dogsforbetterlives.org, and then there's the Get Involved tab. You can click on that, and we have these options and many more there. So feel free to check that out. We also have regional advisory boards, and we have those in California, the Pacific Northwest, and the Northeast. And these groups are so amazing. They spend a lot of time putting together fun events. So for National Service Dog Month, they've been putting together Barks and Brews. So these are great community outreach events where they can get puppies out in front of people and share the puppy raiser volunteer opportunity, talk about the ways that our dogs support our clients, and really just raise awareness. So it's amazing, and it's a fun way to engage with like-minded people. So if you're interested in that, that's also on that Get Involved page. And then the last one that I'll share on this screen is joining the PAC. So that is our monthly donor base. And so if you sign up to donate any amount per month, you're able to you receive a VIP newsletter, basically. So every month you receive a newsletter from our CEO, giving you kind of a background of what's been happening, a little bit of a behind the scenes. And you also follow a puppy in training, which is really fun and cute to watch. We're following Emerald right now, who is, she joined us many months ago, donated from another organization, and she is in training. So it's really fun to see her kind of blossom and grow. And then I will say, just as a important note, that 100% of every dollar donated to Dogs for Better Lives supports our program. So if you want to support our dogs, our clients, this is a great way to know that that's where those dollars are going. We have a longstanding endowment that covers our administrative and fundraising expenses. So you know that the dollars you're investing are going right where you want them to. The average value of an assistance dog coming from DBL is $54,000, which is a lot. It's a high price tag, but it takes a lot of effort and resources to produce a well-trained service dog. So just something to keep in mind if you're interested in donating. We are always just humbled and so appreciative of donor support. So we have this QR code on the screen, and then also dogsforbetterlives.org/donate. You can find that same form. So with that, I think we have some questions in the chat, Gwen, and a couple of other ones, like you said, we got ahead of time. So let's go ahead and start going through some of the ones from the chat first. And again, if anyone has specific questions, just feel free to drop that in the chat box, and we'll do our best to get to what we can. I will note for Gwen, she is not a lawyer, so may not have like 100% command of ADA law. But we will do our best to answer these questions. So the first one I have is from Kirsten. Kirsten says, hello, I'm deaf. Can I request a service dog under 20 pounds?
Great question, Kirsten. As you might imagine, as an organization that both has a purpose-bred breeding program, producing labs and Goldens, and working with rescue dogs, the opportunity may exist for a small dog. However, those opportunities are few and far between. So we really want people to know that they may get a dog of any size. So if it's required that you get a small dog, we might not be quite the right organization because we can't guarantee providing a small dog for anyone.
Yeah, we hopefully will have more smaller dogs in training through our shelter to service dog program. But like you said, Gwen, we can't guarantee it at this point. Meryl asks, how can one apply for a service dog?
So our website is amazing. Sarah and her team have put together a great website that's really easy to navigate. And there's a tab on there that'll help you find our application. It'll describe our process and help you choose, which category to kind of guide your application towards. And you can learn about all the requirements also on the website. And then as far as hypoallergenic service dogs, we are primarily at this time using Labrador Retrievers. So, and our future plan might have a Golden Retriever or a Lab Golden Cross, but right now they're all Labrador Retrievers.
Great. And what is the difference between an assistance dog and a service dog? I know sometimes these terms get used together.
And that's also a very good question. Sarah and I were chatting about this prior to the presentation, and the service dog, assistance dog industry, I don't feel like we've really connected ourselves to which term we like the best. So the ADA law talks about service dogs, and a lot of organizations are really committing to that language. But the service dog industry is accredited through an organization called Assistance Dogs International. So I think as we progress through time, I'm guessing we're going to continue to see use of both of those terms moving forward.
Yeah, so I guess at this point, anytime someone says assistance dog, you can sort of apply the service dog access to that same name, right?
I would think so.
Yeah. Okay. What about emotional support animals? How do service dogs differ? And I think you covered some of that already. But specifically, can an employer deny an emotional support animal in the office?
These are good questions. And as Sarah said, I'm not an attorney, but I have been in the service dog industry a long time. And so while there are laws that protect public access for service animals in places of public accommodation, the language in the law is very different, or a little bit different, when it comes to in employment law. So employment law, there's a lot of areas of gray, but basically to bring either an assistance dog, service dog, or emotional support dog into the workplace, that individual is asking for a reasonable accommodation of their employer. And there's a whole process that someone would go through and the employer would go through to determine if that accommodation is reasonable. So, but there are definitely resources on the internet that can help guide someone through either the process of reasonable accommodation or, obviously working with their employer, what they would prefer.
Great. And we do have a resource that we can share in the chat. Just add that link into the chat box so folks can have that. Next question. What do Dogs for Better Lives service dogs have to demonstrate in order to have public access?
So in order to have public access, as I've mentioned, Assistance Dog International has created a public access test. And it's just a general standard that member organizations agree that our dogs will meet, a minimum standard. And largely, quite honestly, that test is measuring that the dog is safe and under control in common environments that a person might take it. So if there's a loud noise that happens, the dog can startle, but it has to recover. It can't remain fearful. Can the dog go calmly out of its vehicle and into its vehicle, walking through the door? Does it have good leash manners just as you walk through the mall? If a piece of food drops on the floor, can the dog ignore that food and not scavenge or pull the person if there's another dog or a child? Is the dog under control? So that is, the first layer of testing for public access. And then, of course, in order for a dog to have public access, it needs to be performing a task. So for that handler to be able to demonstrate that this dog is performing some task that mitigates the effect of their disability when in public.
So I think that also kind of ties into the next question, which was the difference between a home hearing dog, which is one of our programs, and certified hearing dog, and access for both types. Like, what's that look like?
Sure. So the home, we have this great program called a home hearing program. And so this program is really designed for individuals who don't envision taking the dog with them as they go about their day in public, or maybe they just don't go in public very often, but having a dog that can alert them to sounds in their home is really helpful. The dogs are trained the same. The only difference is that public access piece. So at placement, a home certified hearing dog, we will spend a lot of time working with folks in their home and really focusing on getting that dog functional at home. In a public certified placement, we're going to do both. We're going to spend time in public and at home and getting the dog responsive and helping the handler navigate all of the things that come up with that. But we do know everyone's life is a little bit different. And so often a home hearing dog placement is a great option for someone who just really wants the benefit of that dog around their house. When you bring a dog with you in public, you get a lot of questions, a lot of attention. And sometimes that just isn't right for folks either. They'd rather just, go about their day and get home to their lovely dog waiting for them.
Definitely can relate to that one. So next question I have, can service dogs be permitted in religious institutions, medical facilities?
All of the access questions. So the ADA allows for service dog access to places of public accommodation. Where the ADA doesn't allow access or doesn't necessarily grant access are private places. So places that aren't open to the public. And so therefore, a golf course that is members only does not have to allow a service dog. Religious institutions in many ways fall under this sort of private thought process. However, religious institutions tend to want to be very open and inclusive. And in my experience, it's not a place where our clients have access issues. Is when they try to go to a new church when they're in a different town, that tends to not be an issue. Obviously, hospitals, that becomes a little bit of a different scenario. We don't want, if we ourselves as a handler aren't able to manage or control the dog, we shouldn't be taking the dog with us, because that, we're not asking the nurse to take care of us and our dog. Of course, if there's a sterile environment, a surgery room, again, that's not really reasonable that the dog would attend. But if we are going to the hospital, we can manage the dog. It can accompany us. We can toilet it. We can make sure its needs are met. Then typically the dog can accompany someone to the hospital.
Great. I have one more pre-sent question. If anyone else has questions that are attending live, you feel free to put them in the chat so we can get to those as well. I have another access question, Gwen. So this question is asking about apartments with weight and size restrictions. What might need to be done so that someone with a service dog can sort of work around that?
Oh my goodness. So this is where the law gets complicated as well. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but there's a lot of language around with the Fair Housing Act. And again, that word reasonable accommodation in the standard comes up. but someone that's asking for their either self-trained dog or an exception to a no pet rule with their rental property is probably going to need to produce some documentation and proof of disability, proof of need for the animal that you're asking. But again, that's really starts to become more of a legal question that you're going to want to get some better help than me on answering.
Gotcha. Fair enough. Yeah, so I guess I don't see any other questions in the chat, but if anyone ever does have any questions, you want some follow-up, you can feel free to email me. My email address is Sarah, S-A-R-A, @dogsforbetterlives.org, and we can always route questions to whomever. I'm always happy to help people get their curiosities and concerns responded to, so feel free to reach out. But thank you, Gwen. Really appreciate your time today. I know you're a busy, busy woman and have a lot on your plate. And it's always good, though, to hear your expertise about service dogs. We just got a last second question from Donna. I'm going to hop into that really quick. She's asking about puppies in training. Are they allowed full access, such as a certified assistance dog is allowed?
Great question, Donna. So puppies in training don't have the same access as a certified assistance dog. We rely on the goodwill of the businesses to let us in and train and socialize the puppies that are being raised for different programs, for our program. Great question.
Yeah, great question. Okay, well, thank you again, Gwen. Thank you everyone for attending. Again, if you need anything, don't ever hesitate to reach out. We would love to hear your feedback on today's presentation and just know what kind of content we do this. We try to do these webinars quarterly. So we'd love to know what kind of topics are interesting to you so that we're providing the content that is helpful. So we'll drop that survey link into the chat for you. We'll also include it in tomorrow's replay email if you want to watch again and answer at that time. And then just watch your email for our social media channels for other details about upcoming webinars. And, you know, we're always here. So thank you so much. And I really appreciate everyone for attending.